So let's see. Oops, wrong button. So are you a natural saver or a spender? What do you guys? We'll start here.
Well, right now, I'm a spender. Well, yeah, I'm a spender, but
You're a
for
spender?
the most part, I'm a saver.
Okay.
If I don't have to eat today, I won't.
No!
You need to eat every day.
Hey, it's like living like Mr. Krabs. Pennies and pennies.
Yeah.
What about this side earlier? We have spenders or savers?
Spender.
Saver.
Okay. There is such a thing as over-saving. So when you're not eating to save,
Protein bars.
that's a problem, okay? So there's no right or wrong answer. You can be both.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was like,
So, yes, you can be both. However, you have goals, purchases that you want to make, and you have bills that you got to pay, right? Some of us, right? Whether sometimes mom and dad are paying everything else, or maybe you got a phone bill, right? Maybe you got your eating bill, that's an expense that you have to eat out every day, right? Or you got to buy groceries if you're one of those people who like to bring their meals with them, right? So what kind of expenses do you all as college students have?
Books.
Books,
Parking.
parking,
Food. Food.
food,
oh, my bus is free for another year.
Rent.
rent, okay, yeah, some of us have rent.
Clothes.
People have rent. Clothes.
It's your 10th year, you have to be 18 and under. I was 18, but too much of a turn 19, so I can't get a car loan and insurance.
Car loan, insurance,
Phone.
health insurance.
New iPhone 11 is coming out.
Right. Okay. I was just curious, again, no right or wrong answer. I wanted to see what you all have, just because, some of us pay rent. That's not an expense for everybody. Some people live at home with mom and dad who don't charge rent. So that's not an expense they have to worry about. But again, no right or wrong answer. I just wanted to know what you all had in mind. So to kind of start with your budgeting is knowing what you bring home each month and or bi-weekly or weekly, even if it's different. So if one week I have $400 and the next week I have $1,000, that's fine. But you need to know, or at least have a general estimate, or possibly find the average of what you bring home monthly, right? So in this example, $2,200 a month, right? I wish, right? Or at least $1,100 every 2 weeks. So I'm not going to ask you out in public what you bring, but make that mental note and or write it down on your zero-based budget worksheet, what that income looks like. Or this is just for fun and example. So if you want to put you earned $1 million today, I'm okay with that. So how many of you think you know what you bring home on a monthly basis? Do you know? Yeah, you know? I can tell you when I was a college student, I did not know. Not necessarily always because it fluctuated. For the most part, I averaged out maybe 20 hours a week. I only worked one job, so my income was somewhat consistent, but it just wasn't a lot. But I still didn't know what that was until I actually purposefully started to be mindful about my budget. So know what your income is. So if you're considering saving, how do you start to save? You can either look at the PowerPoint or shout out an answer.
Put money away, like in a jar or something.
Okay?
So if you work at a restaurant, save your tips is a nice way.
Any other way?
Ask your parents or something.
Ask parents?
This isn't saving it.
Okay. No wrong answer, but in order to start, again, it's going back to knowing your expenses. So do you have a house or living expenses? Do you give to a local charity and or church if you're religious? your car, transportation, general expectations, because you can't save what you don't have, correct? So if it comes out through all your expenses, you're in the negatives. What do you think that means? You owe, exactly. So does that mean we may need to cut on some things? Right? I know that's a big one, at least for me. I could have probably paid 2 college students full tuition with the amount of money I spent at Starbucks during my undergrad. So maybe you need to cut down. So actually the average Starbucks drink is $7 a day. So for somebody who goes every day, that's what, $35? If it plays Monday through Friday. A week, that is $70 every 2 weeks. That means what, $120 a month? Times 12? Who's my math people? I don't know. What is it?
140.
140 a month. Thank you. See? That's why I'm not a math major. That's a lot of money. So, know your expenses before you start to save. But then add them up. What does it total out to? So again, I'm going to give you all about 5-10 minutes on your spreadsheet. There are some examples, but you can cross them out and add your own. Write down all of your expenses that you currently have that you can think of. And include money for things that you want to spend on, whether it's shopping for groceries or makeup or concert tickets. You know, add that to your budget.
Should we save, if we don't have any insurance whatsoever, should we cross it out or just make an estimate?
It's up to you.
Okay.
If you want to start including, so that either you're saving for your insurance later on, or if you, because it's not an expense right now, you don't have to worry about it.
I want to put like this one and then like for my insurance, again, like I was like, this one I'll start with that.
Mhm.
So I just like put 0 or?
Yeah, put 0 if you don't have an expense. And then again, you can cross out and put something that is an expense to you.
Oh, great. Do we put it with what it costs in the budget or actual?
What's a car insurance?
What's what?
What's a car insurance?
It's a type of insurance that covers everything. I don't know how to explain it. It's very,
Like life insurance.
like, it's more like life insurance. That's a great way to put it. And then for something you don't know, for example, if you want to add coffee on there, you would give yourself a budget, and then later, if you want to use this spreadsheet, when you look at your bank statement, see what your actual budget should look like. Because you either have to really reduce it, right, to what you want, and or realize, okay, there's just no way like $50 is enough for me for Starbucks. I need 100. Sometimes there's just that realization. You either have to really cut back or give yourself a higher budget, if possible, and cut back on something else that you think you can. Alright, so we're going to keep moving. So let's just say, like in this scenario, total expenses every 2 weeks added up to $700. So if we go back to the $1,100 minus $700 of expenses, that leaves me $400. If you want to save or decrease debt for any of you that have student loans, this is not money you get to spend. At least not right away. Right? So I personally like, this is only one way. We will have multiple workshops on other ways to save and budget money. But one way that I personally like is a zero-based budget. So for this, you have to make sure that you accounted for all expenses. Like it says, a great way to review this is to review your account statements. This is accessible through either an app that you have, but it's on your account. Anytime you have swiped and or entered your PIN, if it's a debit card, or anytime you swiped, it has made a log. And there's a log somewhere in some way, shape, or form. So again, you can access through your online banking account. If you don't know how, I recommend you go to your bank of choice, whoever you bank with, and ask them, how do I access this information? Because a lot of it's electronically. They even give you incentives to do paperless. But the problem with paperless is out of sight, out of mind. So you're not realizing how much you're swiping, right? So you need to review it. And then if you've done your worksheet and you realize that all expenses are accounted for with money and there's money left over, can you add bigger payments to anything? So if you have a credit card with $500 credit card and you spent all $500, your minimum payment is $25. Well, I have $400 left over in this scenario. Do I need to put all $400 on the credit card? No. Could I make a $50 payment instead of $25? Could I make a $200 payment? The answer is yes. Right. But the choice is yours, right? The point being is that every penny should be accounted for. So if you want to save the full $400, save it. But you don't get to just leave it there and then swipe away, unless you deemed it for shopping. But you got to give it a title. That's what the zero-based budget is about. There's just no money left over for whatever. It has a purpose. It is going to go to something. Again, it can be shopping, it can be concert tickets, it can be savings, but it has to have a name and purpose. Does that make sense? Yes.
What do we do if it's like a monthly payment or a one-time payment for that whole year, but you still need to save up money for it?
Then make that part of your budget as far as an expense. So let's say, for example, you paid Pandora $50 for the premium. I don't know what it is. I used to pay it, I don't know. But $50 and you owe it every December. Make that $10 or $5 expense for Pandora every 2 weeks.
And is there another piece of paper like this one?
Yeah, I can make you guys copies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the
Oh, I keep messing up.
No, that's okay.
Because I don't have any like 2-week payments. I
Right.
just have everything.
This was a generic zero-based budget that's online. You can do this in Excel or on Word and customize it to you, but the main things is that you have your income and then your set budgets, and then if you flip it over, there should have been more. Yeah, so there's more. Categorize them.
So like when buying a house and you want to put that good credit, do you know like what that score is or what you're like looking for?
Usually good credit is anything above a 635. To get that score, you are able to ask for it for free once a year, unless you use sometimes external entities, external people like Credit Karma. Great question. So when you want to save for something, make that a budget item. So if you know in 3 months you have concert tickets you want to purchase, then make that part of your budget. Which is why I actually recommend you do it online, like in Excel or something, because then it's an easy addition.
So what then is like a good like APR for like a credit card? Annual percentage rate, like a certain percent?
Well, your credit score usually determines that. So anything under double digits usually is a good percentage, I think. So 10 or above would be too high of a percentage.
Thank you.
Mhm. Alright. So again, put it into writing and action. So whether you use this model or a different model, again, the reason I like zero-based budget, and it actually works best if you go cash, but I know this generation, y'all have a cash phobia, like no mañana. But research shows that there is actually a psychological correlation between physical money and your willingness to give it away when you tangibly have it. Because it's, again, the reason debit and credit cards get you in trouble is because it's out of sight, out of mind. Even if you have an app. Because unless you're making the notification, you spent more than $5 today, most likely you're not going to get a notification. So it's out of sight, out of mind. Unless you purposefully, maybe at the beginning of each month or at the end of each month, try to go through your statements and realize, okay, this is what I'm spending my money on. Which I would recommend you do before you even start your budget. Like, get a general idea, okay, I know I spend money on coffee, I know I spend money on book supplies or school supplies. I know I spend money on my phone bill, like the ones you for sure know. But then still go through your statement and see, okay, what else am I spending my money on? Because I guarantee you your card was not only swiped 4 times this month. Right? Or if you set your budget, again, a great example for me is coffee, right? I used to think I can do $25 coffee budget. Again, realizing that $7 is the average of my personal coffee of choice. That was not going to be realistic if I wanted coffee every day. I either had to change what I wanted to drink, start drinking more coffee from home, or buying less coffee daily, like not buying it every day and only maybe twice a week. That doesn't work for Tina. Tina likes a specific fancy coffee from a specific location in order for her to function. So I had to increase that budget, right, to what it actually was, and then maybe reduce something. For example, I don't go clothes shopping often. This shirt is from graduate school, so it's about 7 years old. I'm just kidding, I'm not that old. Nobody disagreed with me. Wow, okay. But no, this shirt really is like 4 or 5 years old. I don't buy clothes that often. Clothes for me, as long as it fits, I'm willing to use it. I'm not always in the most trendy things. So it's an expense that I could reduce. I had a way higher clothes budget thinking like, oh, I'm going to go shopping all the time. Every check, I'm going to go buy one new outfit. Never happened because I hate them all. So, but I realized I was going to the coffee shop every day. So that's why I had to increase my coffee budget and decrease my spending money for clothes. Does that all make sense? Does any of this seem unreasonable? Are you like, yeah, I don't see me doing that? What do you think is going to be your biggest challenge? Making the budget, starting it, okay. What What else? Any other challenges?
Also, it's like stay on budget because like sometimes like after like lunch, I'm just like I like to be like exploring around like area of your like restaurants, and like some restaurant maybe they're charging you for prices for foods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, different prices for foods. Yeah. So in that scenario, let's say you gave yourself a $35 budget to eat out, and you spent, let's say, 27 of that already, and your friends invite you out to eat, and you accept because it's your friends, right? You want to go out to eat with your friends, and you realize the cheapest thing on the menu is $22. First of all, you got some expensive friends, right? But it happens, right? You don't always know ahead of time, and nobody really thinks, let me check the menu first, right? And your budget is different than your friend's budget, right? So you're at the restaurant, you have money, but it's not that within that budget. You can definitely swipe and be okay. You're not going to get your card's not going to decline. But do you spend that money, or do you leave, or what do you do? You spend it, and then what?
Try to save next time.
Okay.
I mean, you could adjust your budgets, like, there's other things that, money that you've devoted for other things you could contract to.
Redirect your money expenses, okay?
I'd say adjusting.
Adjusting. Yeah, I would agree.
The following weeks.
In the following week to adjust your budget, right? Another way to handle that is to ask for a favor. I heard that. Yeah, you could ask for a favor, an IOU, right? Can somebody spot me this time? Pay you back later, right? But what I was going to recommend is, yes, once you adjust, but again, go back to your statement and check, okay, do I eat fancier meals? Or can I survive off of McNuggets? Right? Should I be buying more groceries and prepping my meals? Right? So it's like the scenario of I brought lunch, but now everybody at the office wants to go eat out. What do you do?
I'm cheap, I'll eat my own food.
Okay.
Prepare an emergency budget. That's like enough for me.
Yeah, that's another great way to accommodate this. An emergency budget, sorry, yeah, as if it's a money. Right? Emergency budget, which you should have in general, especially for those of you who have vehicles, right? Even if it's not your car payment, there should be a car expenses that you add to. So, if it was cash, a way that we do this with zero-based budget too, I combine the two. Any spending money that I have, for the most part, I try to do cash. If I'm gonna blow it anyway, all the way to the last penny, right? But my bills, because usually again, everything's going electronic, I usually get a discount if it's automatically withdrawn and it's electronic, so I keep that electronic. And then my savings, so anything I'm trying to save for, I also do cash. So I have little envelopes of cash. I'm not going to tell you where in my apartment. Just kidding. But I have envelopes where I put the cash, and then I start seeing the money add up, which also helps. But again, if you're not a cash person, then the hard part for you all is going to be leaving it alone. Now, if you're like, I can't do it, what are some other ideas that you think may work electronically? Okay, I'll give you a hint. You can have more than one bank. Right? So what one of my friends does is she has a regular Chase account for her everyday expenses, but for her savings, she has it automatically withdrawn from her check to go to her other bank, which is a credit union. So, what I used to do is have my savings go into PayPal, because you used to have to take 2 to 3 days in order for it to go into your account anyway. So it had to really be an emergency in order for me to withdraw it anyway. Now it's so easy with apps that you can just, oh, I need more money. I'm gonna add this to my account, right? So another thing for you all in this technology age is don't download the app. Try to go a little old school, at least for a little while, with just checking your statements, having those come to your house, and or just only using online to where you're gonna have to log on to a computer or use your phone, to where it's a hassle, not your little thumbprint, log in and then easy transfer, right? That's the hard part, especially if you're not good. I'll admit it, I'm not good when it comes to saving, because, at least electronically. Because cash, it's at home. I'm at the grocery store. Like, I'm not gonna leave my groceries, drive all the way home, grab more cash, put it in my account, and then drive back to the grocery store. I'm gonna have to adjust what I'm buying, right? So I don't touch my savings. I keep that cash. But again, that is a downside to going cash, is that it's not readily available. So it's a catch-22. It's a double-edged sword, however you want to slice it. But the good news is this isn't something you have to master now. I am 20-some years old and have not mastered it, right? And some of us are really great at it, and some of us still struggle. There are 40-some-year-olds, my sisters, that still struggle with this today, where they're asking the 20-some years old for money, right? So I'm doing something right, they're not doing something right, but there are days where I have to ask for help too. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing that has to be taboo. I would say if you have those really close friends, talk about money. I think another issue that we have, especially in this society, is that it's taboo to talk about money. I'm not saying talk about how much you earn. I mean, if you're talking amongst college students, I mean, y'all are not making salary money, right? So no, not one of you is making way more than the other, right? But talk about different expenses. Ask your friends. If you notice one of your friends is constantly buying, Louis Vuitton or Chanel or whatever the name products are, ask them, like, in a sincere way, out of curiosity, how do you afford this? If it's mom and dad, okay, that leaves you out. Can your mom and dad adopt me? Right? But if they're saving or they're really good at it or they know how to do discounts, like, I wish I was like a super couponer or something like that, because the way that those women stock their houses, like, I wish I could do that, but I have no idea even where to start. So figure out what the tips and tricks are. Again, there are other ways to save. There will be other workshops on this. This isn't the only way. You don't have to do it this way. This is just one way to be financial literate and trying to start a budget and or start saving. Any questions? Yes?
What's the difference between a bank and a credit union?
Usually like a regular bank, like Chase Bank or Wells Fargo, it's literally just there to hold your money. They offer credit cards and everything like that. A credit union is usually established to help your credit. So usually when you have a savings account specifically, they have debit cards, but their interest rate on when the interest starts accumulating with the money that you leave in your savings account is a lot faster and it's a better rate. So for example, at Chase you can have a savings account, but your percentage is only, again this is only an example, 2%, right? And you have to have that money in there, let's say for 5 years before it starts accumulating interest, right? Versus at a credit union, you might have that same savings account, but it might be at 4% and you only need to hold the money for 3 years. So it starts accumulating interest faster. If you didn't know, a savings account can start making money for you if you leave it alone. But those are the key terms, is leave it alone. And it has to be usually a very sizable amount. So about $1,000 a month.
What do you mean by leave it alone? Because I have them pull out like a certain amount of money every month, but sometimes it's not enough. And like I'll get like something and then I put like an extra 50 in there. Would it disrupt it, or is it just pulling money out?
It's just pulling money out. So if you put money in, they're all for that. They want you to have $10,000 in savings or more, right? It's every time you do a withdrawal. And usually you get penalized, and again, I only know this from experience, is from withdrawing a certain amount of times within a certain period, usually like a month. So I know I got in trouble for withdrawing because I didn't want to take out a lot, and instead of just taking out what I knew I needed, I was like, no, I'm only going to take this, and then I need it more, and then I need it more, and then I need it more. So I withdrew from my account 5 times in 1 month, and then I got penalized for it. So they charged me. So on top of that, they took more money. I'm like, why? So, but if you leave it alone, that's what they want you to do. And so then that's what the percentage is for, to help you. They will start adding money to your account. But again, it's usually like you have to leave it for like 10 years or more. How long? Yeah, usually every bank is different. And these are very generic answers. I'm not a banker, but maybe that's something that we can do for you all. We'll bring in a credit union person to talk to you all about all of that stuff. Yes.
Why do some people have more than one credit card?
Why do people have more than one credit card? One, it helps boost your credit, especially if they're different types of credit cards. For example, like your Amazon one versus like a very regular one, like, you know, Capital One, versus like a store one if you have your own Macy's credit card, or I don't know, does Sephora have a credit card?
They do now.
They do now.
As
Okay,
of a
so
month ago.
Sephora credit card, or your Apple credit card, because I know that's coming out, because they all have different interest rates, and they're all different amounts. So yes, I can only spend $300 at Sephora, but I have a $1,500 credit with Amazon. Well, if you're paying all of those payments on time and you're using your credit wisely, that boosts your credit. And your credit is what determines what kind of house you get, what kind of car you can get, what kind of car loan you can get, your rent even for renters, they usually do a credit score check, unless you're at some maybe not so fancy establishment, they may not check credit scores. But your credit, for some reason, society has deemed, tells you how responsible you are with money. So the higher the credit, meaning the more money they're willing to give you, means you're a more responsible adult than somebody with low credit, which is technically untrue, but I'm not going to get into all that because I can do a whole workshop on that too. But yeah, that's what society has deemed are responsible with money, not responsible with money. So that's usually why. And some people are irresponsible. They're like, oh, I don't have to pay for this right now. You're going to give me a $300 credit card? Okay. But then that's how they get into a lot of debt. And then they're making all these payments. And that's why I told you, if you have $400 to spare, you make a bigger payment. Because what happens too is they'll max out their credit card, and then they're only making minimal payments. And then let's say I have a $400 credit card, and I've got it down to $200, and instead of paying it off, they're like, oh, I have $200 to spend again. No. You gotta pay it off completely. So anytime you can pay a credit card off, like fully, do it. Anytime you can add an additional payment, do it. That will definitely help your credit score. Do you all want a workshop specifically on credit cards and credit? Would that be helpful? Okay. We will see if we can try to fit that in. If not this semester, it'll definitely be next semester. Okay. Any other questions about saving and or budgeting? No? All right, then I will ask you to fill out the workshop survey, and then after that, you are free to go, and you receive workshop credit. If this is your first workshop, you have one more to go after this.